So I would like to call Reverend Ruth Harvey, our special guest from Scotland, who is going to let us know about her lived life herself, a Celtic spirituality.
Thank you. Is this okay if I hold it here and you can hear me? Thank you, Auntie Beryl, and wonderful to be here with you, three others on the platform. I might just stand over here so that I don't have my back to you. And what an honour it is to be here in Pitt Street Uniting Church with the Wellspring community, with the members of this congregation and others who are here this evening. It's been a huge privilege to be part of this Wellspring Iona pilgrimage. Nick and I, with Brooke and Lisa and others, have travelled to these places, and I am deeply honoured to have been part of this programme. I'm still processing it. My gratitude is immense. I come, friends, from the Iona community, a Christian community rooted in the island of Scotland with a global reach. The island of Iona is an island, off an island, off an island on the west coast of Scotland. But it was very close to the north of Ireland, where Columba came in the year 563. I thought that was a long time ago, and then I met Brooke and learned about 2,000 continuous generations and so on, and I realised with huge humility how recent my Christian community is. I came at the invitation of Joy and Lisa, and we've been working together for over a year on the programme for this pilgrimage. And at one point in our conversations, I asked Joy what the purpose of this pilgrimage was, and Joy gave me this beautiful purpose for the pilgrimage. Forgive me if you've heard this before, friends. This is what Joy said. She was inviting us to take part in a genuine sharing, to stir hearts and to fill souls with gladness and joy in order to give comfort and hope for the future. At the time that this was planned, I think it was only really Brooke that knew that there was going to be a referendum called for the 14th of October. Little did I know that we would be with you in such an auspicious time. And the pain is palpable, as is the pain of our friends in Gaza and in the rest of Palestine and in the occupied territories and in Israel. We come together at painful times. I want to share just a few words about my story and why I feel drawn here, and then I'm going to share a few stories about the comfort and the discomfort I have felt in these last weeks on pilgrimage. I wear a yellow thread around my wrist, and that is to remind me that my calling or my vocation is part of the grand stream of creative threads way beyond my life and way beyond the life of my ancestors. That I am part of creation that is a calling and a pulsing vitality that reminds me why I'm on the earth and points me forward. And friends, if you would like, I have some golden threads or ribbons which you may take with you if this also speaks to you. This notion of the golden thread is a spiritual notion for me, a sense of rightness of place, of vocation, and it's a very practical sense that when I feel that I am called and in a place of goodness and wholeness and life, there's a sense that that yellow golden thread is pulsing in a healthy way through all my veins and out into the world. And there are times when that golden thread, it never disappears, but it can sometimes feel wan, it can feel vulnerable, it can feel brittle. And that's when I know I'm in a place that is not healthy for me. And I try in my spiritual life to keep my antennae alert to that notion of the golden thread. I believe it's a personal journey, and I profoundly believe it's a collective journey that we as communities are also called into the goodness of creation. And we're also called to call out when there is a lack of life. Choose life is one of the great threads from the Hebrew Bible. And so for me, that was brought to life. My happenstance, where I was thrown into the world, was into Glasgow. I was born in the city of Glasgow in 1966, in the midst of an area of Glasgow called the Gorbals, where there was immense poverty, and my parents had made a decision to live in community alongside those with the least in society. Theirs was a choice. The majority of people around them had no choice. We were then propelled out of that place in 1971 when the corporation in Glasgow decided in their wisdom to demolish the beautiful Victorian tenements that had become derelict because of bad management. They demolished all of them and sent most of the population to the outskirts of the city to live on what were called streets on end, high-rise block flats, where the notion of community was completely dissipated. And those communities, those vulnerable webs, were lost. We, as a family, however, were lucky enough to go to the island of Iona, the island off an island. I'm sure many of you have been there, and we lived there for 5 years. I still didn't realise I was living in Christian community. I just knew that we worshipped twice a day and that we ate all together in a large refectory. It's now a restored Benedictine monastery, but it's on the site of where Columba came in the 6th century. That experience, those early years, have formed my life. Later, we moved to a town in Scotland called Stirling, which is in the central belt. And again, I didn't know this at the time, but it's well known for sectarianism, where the schools have to separate their playtimes so that the Catholic and the Protestant children don't fight one another. That was one of our other major exports, as well as Billy Connolly and whiskey and horrific coloniser, settler legacies. We also exported sectarianism to the north of Ireland. People talk about Iona as a thin place, where the veil between things spiritual and things material is as thin as gossamer, and I understand that, and it is. However, I do believe that it's in the liminal relationships, one with another, that we most fully find our thinness. So, the experiences on the pilgrimage, very briefly. The brokenness I have felt when I have been hearing about the rising tides in the Pacific Islands, when I've heard about the Anthropocene and the 9 planetary boundaries that we're about to cross, is horrific. You cannot fail to be unsettled. You cannot fail to be unsettled if you travel to Gippsland and hear about the horrific massacres. I have been unsettled by the binary language of Indigenous, non-Indigenous, which sometimes feels too harsh for me. I find it difficult. And we need just to live with that difficulty. I found it difficult to live with the paradox of flying on a creation care pilgrimage where my country's carbon greed is massive. And there is hope. There is calm in the storm. There is hope in the compassion that I have felt emanating from every First Nations leader with whom we've met, at least 17 on this pilgrimage, who have generously welcomed us to country and to the landscape and to the land on which we now share. I have found great hope in examples such as the Scarred Tree Ministries, where we met Uncle Ray Millikan and others. And so I do believe that it's in and through community that we, like this, that we will find our golden thread and continue to find those pulses of new life that will guide us forward, particularly if we listen and think deeply and learn about environmental degradation, particularly if we have the courage to bring powerful questions to one another and listen to the answers with a willingness to be changed, and particularly if we bring comfort through prayer and reflection that propels us into action. So thank you, friends, and I will pause there.